Hi there, it's the Common Magician, and as always, I want to try something interesting with you. I have a few items here. I've got a deck of cards. We'll get to that in a moment. I've got a few vintage books that I pulled off of the bookshelf over there just a little while ago, and these are kind of nature books. One of them is Stars, 150 Paintings in Color, A Guide to the Constellations, and it's just got some various graphics in there, and it's a study of various things dealing with astronomy. And then I've got, Trees of North America. It is a spotter's guide, Trees of North America, and it's just a guide to various types of trees and foliage and leaves that you would find in North America. And then I've got another one over here, the Audubon Society Pocket Guides, Familiar Flowers of North America, a very similar book, but it deals mostly in flowers rather than leaves and trees. So some interesting little books, little guides. I want you to do something real quick here. I just want you to very freely, impulsively, go ahead and take any two of these away. Let's say you take away those two, that'd be great. Again, freely, your choice. Just give one of those back to me. Let's say you give this one back to me. That'd be great. That leaves us with this one right here. And we're just going to set these aside over here, and we're gonna leave this one right there. And I'm going to take the card box. I'm just going to set that on that one over there. Okay, and we'll keep that sort of in safekeeping for right now. I've got a deck of cards. And it is shuffled, but I want to make sure that you're happy that it's shuffled, so go ahead and shuffle them. So I'd give them over to you, and you can shuffle them any way that you want. It doesn't really matter, as long as you are happy that they are indeed shuffled. And we would just want to make sure that you're satisfied that they are mixed up. And once we're happy with that, we can move on. I want to have you select a card here in a minute. But I want to do it in a very, very free and fair way. What I want you to do is I just want you to take just one finger, and I want you to just hold it out like this, one finger, and I want you to just choose any card from the center of the deck. So again, this is a deck that you shuffled. Let's say you go with this one right there. And hopefully you're pleased with that one and satisfied that it's free. It is free. That's the choice. Go ahead and look at that card. In fact, I'm just going to put these back. I want you to shuffle them again. I don't even want to look. And I don't want to have any control over it, so you would go ahead and shuffle the cards once more just to be sure and satisfied that there's no way that I could know what your card was or that I could control it. Well, what I want to do now is very simple. I'm not even going to find your card. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to know what it is. There's no way that I would be able to determine what your card was. Okay? There's just no way. We're going to try something else. From the deck that you shuffled twice now, okay, I just want you to look very closely as I spread them out so we can see absolutely every single card in the deck. Everyone is in view. I want you to tell me for the very first time, what was your card? The Two of Diamonds. Two of Diamonds? I want you to look through here. Do you see anywhere the Two of Diamonds? The Two of Diamonds appears to be completely absent from the deck. There's a reason for that. I want you to lift up that card box right there. Lift up the card box. I want you to take the book in your hands. Just hold it up. Don't open it. I want to show you something. These two books over here that you freely eliminated. Again, this was a free choice, right? Impulsive free choice. I didn't influence you in any way. We didn't make a big deal out of it. If you look at this book, it's completely unremarkable, cover to cover. There's nothing really unusual about it. Same thing with this book, cover to cover. If we take a look inside, there is nothing remarkable about it whatsoever. In fact, you can take a look at these books. I'll hand these out and take a look at them. But that book right there in your hand, the one that you're holding on to, I want you to just look inside the front cover. If you open it up, you'll see something very unusual. The Two of Diamonds. All right, we're continuing our discussion here on the impossible location plot, specifically using an exclusive underlying method of a duplicate. a double item of whatever it is that we are relocating in an impossible way. So we've been looking at cards. We're going to look at cards again today, but we may not entirely look at cards as we discuss this concept. I used the analogy or the example the last time of the Prestige, the movie The Prestige. There's a discussion in there with the character played by Hugh Jackman when he's talking to another character played by Michael Caine, who is the trick developer, the guy behind the scenes, and the Hugh Jackman character is the magician. And there's another character actually in that scene played by Scarlett Johansson, I believe. And the discussion goes on a little bit further from what I showed you last time. The argument gets deeper, and the Hugh Jackman character insists.
I've seen him perform the trick 3 times now, Mr. Carter. The Prestige is the same man.
No, it's not.
The same man comes out of that second cabinet, I promise you.
It's the same man. He wears padded gloves to hide his damaged fingers, but if you look closely, you can tell.
And you can see that he's absolutely convinced it's the same man. If you've seen this movie, it's the same man that goes in the box at the beginning as comes out the end. And the Scarlett Johansson character brings up some convincers, right? Things that compel her to believe it is the same person. And it demonstrates something because, again, spoiler alert, if you know the movie, the Michael Caine explanation that it's a double is the right answer. There actually is a double, a duplicate, a twin that is in play there. And what's happened is that there are convincers that have been put in place specifically, little details to make the trick highly effective. And that is really what is necessary. It's not that you need to really take the person from the one place and put them in the other. You just need to have the right layer of convincing pieces of information in place so that the audience cannot believe that it is any other solution than that. We're going to look at that right now. Now, the last time we looked at the signature as being that example, and that there's ways to duplicate or rather have a stand-in on a signature. We're going to look at ways in which we can convince, I think, the spectator or spectators without any kind of signature that really it must be that this particular item, in this case a playing card, went from here over to there, and there's no other explanation for it. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to layer in a couple of other convincers that don't require us to sign the card. So the first thing that we're going to do, and this should be a pretty quick tutorial here to discuss these concepts. What we're going to do is we're going to use a freely selected location, a freely selected destination that will be proven at the end to be the only destination that the card could have gone to, and it was freely selected and appears to have been inspected at the beginning of the trick. And the way we're going to do this is that we're going to have 3 books, and again, this could be somewhat impromptu. I've actually done this with one book before, The Impossible Location Plot, where I picked a book off of a shelf, and it was sitting on the shelf, and no one was aware that I had actually planted the duplicate in it already, but it was sitting there. I took it off and I just set it down, and then on the other side of the room I went about my business with the demonstration with the playing cards, and then I had someone pick up that book, which was out of my control, and they looked inside and they found the card. And this is a similar kind of thing, but it's got another layer of convincing detail to it. These 3 books, which you show at the beginning, and you appear to riffle through them and you describe what they are, but on this book I'm just going to riffle into halfway from the back. I'm going to avoid the front because in there I have my duplicate already planted, which is the 2 of diamonds. So I show these cards apparently freely and explain what they are, and then I go through a quick layer of equivoque. And again, I think equivoque is extremely powerful if it is a layer of a trick, not the whole trick, but just a layer of a trick, and it only involves a very few number of items. So the way I do this is I say, just go ahead, take away 2 of these. And when I say take away 2 or slide away 2, what I'm indicating is the potential for them to remove from the equation 2 items. In this case, if they take away these 2, it is the perfect outcome, right? And I say, great, just set those aside. This one I'm going to set aside over here. Now, one thing I've learned about equivoque is it's important not to dwell on it in the moment. Dwell on it after the fact. When you get way out to the end of the trick, in your recap, as you recap everything, make a really big deal about the fact that it was a free choice and that they could have made a different decision. But don't make a big deal about it right now. The reason for that is because you might say, well, I changed my mind. Right? You don't want them to do that. Just go through it and get away from the moment and get on to the end. Dwell on it later. Okay? So they take these two away, say, great, we're going to hold this one aside for a moment and then move on. I've got these cards. I'm going to place the box on this for safekeeping. If they take away, the only other option is that they take away the one you want plus another, right? If they do that, you say, great, can you give one back to me? Out of those two. And if they give this one back to you, you say, great, you set that aside. If they give this one back to you, say, wonderful, I'm going to set this right over here. Let's discard this one. And or don't say discard, that's probably bad wording. Say, great, we'll set this right here. I'm going to place the box on top of it. And then without really saying anything, set the other one aside. Say as little as possible to get yourself down to the end. But rather than saying take one, and then going on from there, one really good suggestion I've heard, and I can't remember who I heard it from a long time ago on equivoque, is to just get right down to two. Have them take two, slide two away, get two under their control, and then work down from those two if you have to. Because if they take two and it's not the one that the two are not the one of interest, you've actually done it in one move. Okay, so use equivoque, get yourself down to the book that's got a plant in it. No pun intended, but it's got the planted card inside of it. The next thing I did is I took the cards out and I set the box on it, and I said we're going to set that aside for safekeeping. And then I shuffled the cards, and then I turned the cards over and said, look, go ahead and shuffle them. This deck of cards is very special because it's got a card in it that is a breather. Okay, it is a breather card. It's got a breather crimp on it. That is, the center has been warped in very, very strictly and starkly. And what that does for us is it makes the card so that it can be arrived at with a simple cut, and it will be left on top of the lower packet. So it doesn't matter in this type of breather crimp if it's laid in very, very deeply. They can shuffle it all they want. They can shuffle over and over and over again in any manner if it's been laid in really, really deep, and it will always be there. Now what you want to do is when you take the deck back, hold it perpendicular so you can find where the break is at, and then cut it more central, and then cut down to the table. And then what you've done is you've cut it to the top. Now at this point, what you can do is you can shuffle on your own. And what I do is I shuffle in 1, 2, 3, 4, and that gets it placed fourth card down. And then you can in-jog and then continue with your overhand shuffle. Pick up, retaining that break above those four cards, and then shuffle that packet back to the top. Do not talk about shuffling the cards again. Just do it. Just go through the process of shuffling. You might even say, and you shuffled the cards and they're completely mixed up. That might be the pattern that you use at that point. So what you're going to do then is, now that you have this placed in there, fourth from the top, you can get ready for a underspread force. What you do is you say, I want you to put your finger out like this, and as you're doing that, you're going to call in the fourth card under the 3, and then you're going to hold it trapped there. As you gesture, put out your first finger. This is an idea that I got from Alex Pandrea, where he talks about getting that awkward moment out of the way where you have to call the card right off the top, call it in, and then pinch it and then gesture this way. And what this does is this big motion kind of disguises the dirty work that you've done. Then you're allowed to come back to it, and there's no stutter because the stutter was in there in the moment where you demonstrated what you want them to do. Now you can continue on with your card called out. Another piece of advice on the underspread call is, say, go ahead and touch any one of the cards in the middle. And what that does is it gets rid of those people again that might go, oh, this one, or they might stick their finger underneath. Say any card in the middle, and they'll place their finger on a card and you say, great, this one right here. I just want you to feel that it is free, and then go ahead and show it. And then right after you show it, in fact, as you show it, you might even look away for effect. Turn your head and look away, and then just drop the packet on top of the rest of the cards and say, go ahead and shuffle them again. I don't want to control it. These are additional layers of convincers. You see, if the spectator is using a force or is being forced upon in one of these types of forcing methods that looks really clean, and I find the underspread force to be a really clean force, they can be more convinced that they have made a free selection. So we have a free selection here on the destination. They don't know what's going to happen. They've made an absolute free selection here from a deck that they shuffled. This looks really, really good. They can shuffle the cards again, and again, that crimped card is going to be secure because that crimp has been laid in very, very deeply. You take the cards back, and what you're going to do again is lay it perpendicular so you can see the spot. You want to get it cut to the top again. So again, cut it more central and then cut to the table so it looks like a nice, clean, fair central cut. Then what you're going to do is pick up the deck and turn it over. And this was kind of at the upper edge of the camera, and I apologize for that. It really doesn't matter because all the moves I'm talking about here are really, really burnable, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to hold the deck face up, and their card of interest is on the bottom. You're going to glide it in using the tips of your left hand, or if you're left-handed, it would be the right hand. I'm holding right hand and biddle. I'm going to glide the card in about an inch, a pretty good amount right there, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to swivel cut. I'm giving cover here with my right hand, and I don't want them to look in there to see it. I want to make sure they have a front view. I'm going to swivel cut off the top half, and then I'm going to cut the deck. And I'm not going to make a deal about it. I'm just going to do it. Don't say, now I'll give the deck a cut. That's one thing I've never liked about cutting the deck. I know a lot of magicians out there that say, and we'll give the deck a couple of cuts. And that seems completely unnecessary. Don't say that, because if cutting the deck is accomplishing your method, you definitely don't want to talk about it. Just do it. Cut the deck, and then say, what I want to do is I want to spread the cards out. Now this is essential, but it's not essential to my accomplishing the feat, right? When you spread under this condition with that card jogged in, what will happen is it will be lost inside. It won't be seen. Now I know you can't see it, but way down here at the bottom edge here, the card has been buried underneath the upper card, and that will lay very fairly. You want to spread squarely and fairly, and that card will be buried. Then just move along, say, for the first time, tell me what your card is. Go through, point to all the indices, and say, it's not in there. Your card is not in there. I didn't find your card. You just now told me for the first time what it is, and you can see it's not there. Collect the cards and say there's a reason for that. Then you want to point over here to the book that's been sitting, or whatever other item. You could use other items other than books, I suppose. You could use boxes or whatever's around that you can plant ahead of time. Say, I'm going to remove the card box, or tell them, go ahead and lift up the card box, pick up that book and hold it in your hands very carefully. I want to show you that these other books are completely unremarkable, and then hand them out for inspection. And they'll remember, and you can bring it up at this point. This is where you draw attention to the fact that they made a free selection and they could have changed their mind. Now is the time when you lay on heavy that point. And then the reveal, you say, go ahead and open up the book, and sure enough, inside the front cover is their selection. So very quickly, just to review the points there, we have dressed up in here as convincers, absolute convincers, things, little details that are buried in there to convince the spectator that you must have gotten the card that they selected to that location. You have a free choice, as far as the spectator is concerned, a free choice. You have isolation. You have another free choice. Actually, they shuffle the deck, and immediately there is a free choice. You show the card, they shuffle the deck again, and then they give it back to you. You appear to just spread them out, okay? And at this point, they say what the card is for the very first time. You did not find their card. You didn't say you were going to find their card. In fact, you almost show them that you're not going to find their card. You say, for the first time, what is it? And at this point is apparently the first time that you even know what it is. They've shuffled the deck. They've controlled it. They've had free selections all along. You show that it's not in there. Of course, it's buried in there. And then, out of isolation, they take the book in their hands. You demonstrate that there couldn't be any multiple outs of any kind, right? You don't use that word, but you're showing that this book doesn't have anything remarkable. This book doesn't have anything remarkable. But that book, go ahead and take a look inside the front cover. There's a lot of convincers in there that point to only one solution, that it had to be that the card went to an impossible location without verifying it or signing it in any way. So you've made it disappear from here. It appeared over there. It didn't appear to be in there at the beginning. It couldn't have been in there at the beginning. You couldn't have known what it was. It was a free selection. It just seems incredibly fair. So you want to make sure that if you're going to use a duplicate, that you layer up, and they can be very simple methods. These are all, everything that I did here was really simple and burnable. There's nothing really hard about it that can't be accomplished with mastery with just a little bit of practice and just an understanding of order as you're going through the procedure. We're using a crimped card. You know, you can use other methods, by the way, if you want to, but we're using a crimped card to always get back to that control card. We're using just two controls, kind of a glide that gets buried and then a spread carefully done. And we're using an underspread call force that's done after. And by the way, you can get into this position easier too. For example, if we just cut the card to the top, and I could just say, and you shuffled the deck, and actually I think I messed it up. That's kind of humorous. But you can say, you shuffled the deck. No, I'm good. You shuffled the deck and just thumb off 4 cards and put them right on top, just as a sort of, you know, a hands-on demonstration of what they did. And now I'm set up. You don't have to do the top stock retention shuffle or anything. Just shuffle it forth from the top and then move on from there. You can simplify even in that way. So very simple layers, but many layers that are on top of the basic method, which is a duplicate card, that help to drive home the idea that there's no other way this could have been done. It had to be that card came from here and went into there. So using a duplicate without signing it can be very effective if you have the right kinds of layers in play. So there you have it. Another part to this little series here, as I have time, on the impossible card plot using a duplicate. So good luck with that, and happy magicking.